based on the amount of the work expended in the productions. So modern socialism originates in the late 19th century and was a working class politician. Okay, his name is Karl Marx. Okay, Karl Marx. So he is one of the socialism's most famous and strongest advocates. Then for the social democracy here is refers to the private ownerships of property, okay, but a large governments. This social democracy was formed in the 1940s as an offshoot of the socialisms. So for the social democracy, is allow the private ownership of properties and also feature a large governments that equips to offer such services, for example, the educations, healthcare, teacher institutions. And this social democracy is on such problem, for example, disease, ignorance, okay, the advocate government interventions. Then for the bimodal wealth distributions, okay, there are many poor peoples concentrated well at the top and a small middle class. Okay, so this will result in highly concentrated well among the rich, and it can increase the numbers of the poor peoples with the few resources in their country. So this is not a desirable scenario. Okay, and it can result in the instability. The multinational corporations, they concentrate control of the global economies, okay, to a few companies on it. Okay? It's more like to the monopolies, okay, monopolies industry. So it can result in the instabilities where the size and power of today multinational corporations are immersed. Okay, next is the two schools of the economics talk. Okay, we have the rationalist economy and also the behavioral economics. For the rationalist economies, this one is based on the assumptions, okay, that people are predictable and base their decisions on maximizing utility based on resource. Okay, maximizing keyword here is maximizing utility based on resource. So for example, if you are hungry and you have 10 ringgit to spend, so rational economists suggest you will spend money on food, right? Okay, to satisfy your hunger needs and wants. Okay. However, people are not always rational. Okay. No one wants to go to the jail, right? So even though who stole millions, they will admit the reward was probably not worth the punishments. Okay, so yet this does not stop the individual from engaging in the crimes to secure the short-term gains. And the second assumption here is the behavioral economics. Behavioral economics assumes that humans do not always act rationally, okay, due to genetic emotions and also learns behavior. So there is a word we call it as the heuristic. Okay, heuristic based open past experience. Okay, and is do not always yield the most rational response. The behavioral economics that assess the economic decisions is influenced by the human's behavior. Okay, these economic decisions influenced by the human's behavior. For the rationalist economy, the decisions is influenced by the rationality. Here, this one is based on the human's behavior. That's the differences between these two schools of economics now. If you look at these figures, this it shows about the economic capitalism's country differentiations. So here we can see that countries they may be in the process of developing economic philosophies, and he helps to understand where they may want to go. Again, for example, the China, Sweden, and there's the former Soviets, okay, the former Soviet Unions. What we can see here, they are in the lower left quadrants. Okay, where it represents the socialism as a society with the behavioral economy as the vehicle to happiness. So as we mentioned, that each of these countries' definitions of happiness is derived from the social democratic goal, and they are behaviors because they believe very little in the laissez-faire just now. Okay, next subtopic is about the MNC, the multinational corporations. What is MNC? MNC are public companies that operate on a global scale without significant ties to anyone's nations or regions. Okay, so example of the MNC company, the big company Nikkei, okay, Nikkei, Monsanto, okay, these are the example of the MNC. So MNC are the highest level of the international business commerce, while they're characterized by a global strategies of focusing on the opportunities towards the world. Okay, and the subject of mass ethical debates due to their size and also financial powers. These are the examples of the MMC companies. Okay, so here we can see the Royal Dutch Shell, Walmart, okay, Exxon, Sinopec, China National Petroleum, BP. BP is also MMC. Okay, Step Goods, Toyota Motor, okay, Volkswagen, Total Corporate. Okay, all of these are the top 10 global 500 biggest companies in the world. So business for the social responsibilities. Many MNC they have joined this globally best resource system. Okay, this BSR is track emerging issue and also trends where it's provide the information on the corporate leadership and best practice, then conduct the educational workshop and training and assist the organizations in developing the practical business ethics tools. It's also addressed the issue, for example, such as the community investments, the CSR, the environment, governance, and accountability. Okay. Okay, this figure, you look at these figures. This figure, we compare the countries, comparing countries and corporations. So countries, we can see US. In the US country, we have the Royal Dutch Shell. Okay, this is the revenues. Okay, so all of these are the developing countries. Okay, developing countries. So we can look at here, for example, in China, we have ExxonMobil, Walmart in Japan, BP in Germany, okay, Sinopec Group in India. Okay, here next one is IMF. All of these are the global corporations that support the responsible business. Okay, we have IMF, we have UNs. Okay, later we learn about UNs. Okay, we look at IMF first, International Monetary Fund. Okay, this IMF originated from the Bretton Woods agreements in the years of 1944. Okay, so what are the functions of this IMF? Okay, it's not short-term loans to the members country. Okay, the members country who has the deficits. Okay, and they also provide the foreign currency for its members. Besides that, the IMF they also promotes responsible business conduct. The IMF they will provide the information about the countries that might default on their debts. Okay, so members that provide resources to fund the IMF through a system of quota proportional to the size of their respective economies. And another main functions of this IMF is they recommend this the new rule for large firm which represents the biggest systematic risk. So the concept of risk and IMF, okay, the two are significant importance during the last global recessions because of the massive amount of debt. Okay, so the European country, for example, the Greece, Ireland, Portugal, and Spain, they require major bailout packets from this IMF, from the International Monetary Funds. Okay, so the result is it can cause a negative economic impact. Okay, through the European unions. Okay, next body, next organization is the UN, the United Nations. This UN was founded in the years of 1945, okay, with 193 members nations. Okay. The goals are to promote the world peace, okay, improve the international relationships between the country, and support better standards and also human rights. Besides that, the UN also focus on environmental and also the human rights issue. So for the UN's Global Compass, okay, UN Global Compass is a set of 10 principles, okay, that promotes the human rights, sustainability, and also the eradication of corruption. They have the collaborative agreements, okay, between the businesses, governments, NGO, society, and the UNs. They also offer voluntary memberships. Okay, the members they will report on the progress towards the goal. So we look at these tables. These tables give a brief descriptions of the 10 principles. Okay, so they focus on the human right. Principles number one, the businesses they should support and respect the protections of internationally proclaimed human rights. And principle number two, make sure that they are not complicit in human rights abuse. Okay. And principle number three until number six is about the labor issue. Okay. We look at principle number three, businesses should uphold the freedom of association and the effective recognition of the right to collective bargaining. And principle four, the eliminations of all forms of forced and compulsory labors, the effective abolitions of the child labor and the eliminations of discrimination in respect of the employments and occupations. Then principle 729 is about environments, okay, environmental issue. Principle 7, businesses should support a precautionary approach to environmental challenges. Principle 8, undertake initiatives to promote greater environmental responsibilities. And Principles 9 encourage the developments and diffusions of the environmentally friendly technologies. Okay, and last, principle 10 is anti-corruption. In what businesses should work against corruption in all its forms, including the extortions and also the bribery. Okay, next organizations is the WTO, World Trade Organizations. World Trade Organization was established in the years 1995, okay, at the Uruguay's round of the General Agreements of Tariff and Trade, GATT. And WTO currently have 159 members, okay, and observers nations. So what are the functions of this WTO? WTO, they administers the trade agreements, it facilitates the trade negotiations and settle the trade disputes. Then they also monitors the trade policies of the members countries. They address economic and social issues of many industry, attempts to reduce the trade barrier, and provide legally binding ground rule for commerce. Okay, but not all countries they agree with the WTO on the free tradings. Okay, for example, in the past, the import tariff they increased on Asian plastic bag in Europe. Okay, oil in the South Korea, Chinese steel pipe in the U.S. country, and oil import in the Ukraine. But according to the WTO, the shoes, car, and steel are among the goods most vulnerable to protectionism or trade restrictions amongst countries. But not all countries that agree with this. So the 120 countries that had signed GATT by 1994. So on 1st January 1995, the WTO that replaced GATT, which had been in existence since 1947 as the organizations oversees the multilateral trading system. So the governments that had signed GATT were officially known as GATT contracting parties. And upon signing the new WTO agreements, okay, which include the updated GATT, known as GATT 1994, they officially become known as the WTO members. So the list below is historicals. Okay, it contains the 128 identity signatory as at the end of 1994, together with the dates that signs the agreements. Okay, where is the list? No list. Never mind. Okay, dumping. What is the meaning of dumping? Dumping is the practice of charging high prices for product in domestic markets while selling the same product in foreign market at low prices. Okay, often is below the cost. Okay, so the effect of this dumping is it can place the local firm at a disadvantages. So the U.S. country has the anti-dumping law in place. So this dumping is illegal in many countries. Okay, in many countries. Here are the example of the global ethic issue. Okay, global ethical risk, bribery, antitrust activity, internet security and privacy, human rights, healthcare, labor, and the right to workers' compensation and consumerism. Okay, we look at the first issue. Okay, first is the global ethical risk. Okay. For the global ethical risk, there are key areas of the international risk. So key areas, some of the risks are emerging markets. They carry significant risk for the international investor. Okay. The emerging markets, they offer many opportunities for the investor, but are not without significant risk. Okay, for example, the political instability, imbalance in power, social discontents, and fluctuating economies represents major risk for the foreign investment. Another risk is the Chinese leaderships is promoting nationalism, okay, which could threaten relationships with other countries, okay. For example, what they do is, for example, during the tensions between the China and Japan, okay, they attack on the Japanese businesses in several Chinese cities, okay. For example, they do the campaigns. For example, don't buy this country product, don't buy that country product, okay. So the growing influence of the internet and the proliferations of the information available to citizens, it could potentially lead to more crackdown or attempts at the censorship. And the next risk is the economy's outlook for many Eurozone countries remains weak. Okay, while the policies for the financials is reform have been recommended, oppositions there is likely to be more fierce. So this is the global business ethic and legal issue. Okay, this is based on the research in the years of 2015, top compliance concerns of the global economies. Here is the US ranking and here is the European ranking. Okay, so we just look at the important issue here. Amongst the important issue here is the conduct, US antitrust, mutual respect, okay, US Foreign Corrupt Practice Act, conflict of interest and give, proper use of computers, insider trading, financial integrity, confidentiality, records management, labor and employment law, intellectual properties, global competition law, global anti-bribery requirements, ethics and value, and also exports control, global business ethics and legal issue. Okay, next is the bribery. So bribery is acceptance varies by country. Okay, from country to country is different because it can be a challenge to determine what a bribe is. So while bribery between businesses is illegal in country, for example, in the U.S. country, but it is an accepted way of doing business in other countries. Okay, the bribery law and regulations, for example, in the U.S. country, they have the U.S. Foreign Corrupt Practice Act, FCPA, in which this act is prohibits the company from paying foreign officials to keep or obtain businesses. Okay, and in the UK we have the bribery act. Okay, so UK bribery act it goes much further. So most developed countries they recognize the bribery is not conducive to do the business, including our country as well. Okay, however, the company they must determine okay what constitutes a bribe. Then antitrust activity. Antitrust law means to encourage fair competitions. Okay, so countries that have different level of protections, well, this protection it can create the difficulties in the international businesses. For example, if in the business we want to avoid the big company to monopoly, okay, monopoly in the industry. So we have the vertical system. Vertical system is created okay, when a channel members they control the entire business system. Okay, they can control it through the ownerships or contract or through the purchasing abilities. So this can occur when MMC are allowed to grow unchecked and creates a monopoly. Okay, and the function, the benefit of this vertical system, it can reduce the competitions and can put the small competitors out of the business. Next issue is the internet security and privacy. Okay, we know that today's computer hacker they can use a lot of tools, for example, the internet, computer virus, okay, to commit some corporate epicenters. Okay, they can launch the cyber attack against the government infrastructures, and they also can steal the confidential information. Okay, so in serious internet crimes, it have garners the public attentions. Okay, for example, they can do the cyber hacking, Trojan horses, one and malware. They can use all of these things to do the hacking. So they also can do the privacy violations. Privacy violation here means that hacking into people's personal account. Okay, for example, hacking into people's personal social media account, Facebook hacking, Instagram. Okay, so tracking user through those mobile phone apps. They also can hacking into the company use of the personal informations. Okay, they can steal the our informations, our PMC informations from the banking database, all these things. Next issue is the human rights issue. Okay. So the meaning of human right, okay, we can define it as an inherent dignities with equals and inalienable right. Okay. So is also we also can define it as the foundations of freedom, justice, and also world peace. So this concept of human right is not new in the new businesses. Okay, so that's why we have codified in the UN human rights declarations. While this issue is becoming a serious issue for the companies due to the healthcare issue, and there's many questions whether the healthcare is a right or a frivolous. So healthcare, another ethical issue that gaining in importance is the healthcare issue. So globally, a billions people, okay, over a billions people, they lack access to the healthcare globally, okay, and patents science right to company who can charge what they wish. Okay. This pattern are another challenging issue. Okay, for example, since the patents it give the pharmacy company okay exclusive right to their product for a certain period, so the company they can charge a very high prices for that medicine. So prices thus in emerging economies is cannot often afford. So this become one of the issues. Okay, patents. Some companies they are dropping costly employee insurance plans. They're leaving more people without affordable insurance. Okay, for example, they offer the job opportunities, but they don't cover the medicals. Okay, they don't give the medical benefits okay, to the employees. So this is also one of the healthcare issue that happens. Okay, next issue is the labor and right towards. Many people work outside their homeland. Okay, we know many people they go to the Singapore, they go to the US country. Okay, they're working at the foreign country. So international firms today they have many global ethical concerns. Okay, that related to labor. For example, gender pay equalities. Okay, they need to pay either the female or male in the same amounts, okay, they need to pay them equally, okay. Then the right to join the unions and the standard of living for all of these foreigners, okay, for the international firms when if they hire the foreign people working with. Next issue is the compensations. Okay, living wage. So this is the minimum wage that worker requires to meet the basic needs. Okay, for example, in Malaysia, our minimum wage is 1,200, right? Okay, so some multinational company they choose to outsource to countries that do not have a minimum wage. Okay, this one their purpose is they want to cut costs. Okay, they want to lower the operations cost, so they outsource to the country that don't have a minimum wage. Okay, so they can save in the salary expenses. And for the executive compensation is another issue. This is major topics during the last global recessions. Okay, in global, the demand for alignments between the managerial performance and also the compensations. Why this executive becomes one of the major topic? Okay, one of the reasons is because of the gap between the executive and also the worker compensations. It will likely remain a major business ethics. Gap is very big. Okay, for example, the executive they pay the executive a very high amount of payments, but they pay the workers a very low amount of payments. So this become one of the global issue. Okay, global issue. Then next topic is the consumerism. Okay, the belief that consumers should detect the economic structures of societies. Okay, so for this consumerism, it states that consume goods at an increasing rate is desirable. Equates personal happiness with purchasing and consuming product. Okay, then made to brag. Okay, made to brag here means that is encourage the consumer to buy more item. Okay, for example, made to brag. Okay, they want the consumer to keep returning to their shop, okay, to buy more, okay. So it's also is profitable, okay, to match the product part of the continually changes of fashion markets. So that's why we can see a lot of business. They change their packaging, okay, they change something to make their product look fresh, okay. And then the tractor, they use the US as an example of the non-sustainable consumptions. Okay, next, the ethical decisions are making in the global businesses. Ethical decisions making is essential to successfully operating a global business. Okay, some MNC they have created officer or community to oversee the global compliance issue. Successful implementations of a global ethic program is require extensive employee trainings, and global firm must tailor programs to international markets. We cannot say the global ethic is not one size fits all. Okay, we cannot say like this. So end of chapters 10. Okay, end of chapter 10. So what are the summaries that we learned from these chapters? Okay, in these chapters, we learned about the important topic of the ethical decisions making in an international context. Okay, we look at the values, we look at the cultures, and then a country's values is influenced by the ethnic groups, social organizations, and other cultural aspects. Then we also learned about the risk compartmentalizations, the multinational corporations, again, the different style of the organization they involve, for example, WTO, okay, the UN's. Then we also learned about the several critical ethics issues that global businesses should be aware. Okay, for example, all of these bribery, consumerization, compensations, human rights, living wage, okay, healthcare issue, labor issue, okay. So these are the summaries for chapters 10. Do you have any questions for chapter 10? Okay, so tutorial for chapter 10, you can take it as your homework. Okay, do the tutorial for chapter 10 and we will discuss the answer for the tutorial during our next class. Okay, take it as your homework for the tutorial chapter 10. Any questions, class? Okay, thank you. No questions. Okay, class. So if you don't have any more questions for chapter 10, so I will dismiss our class. Okay. So let me check attendance first. 20 students, 20 minus 1, 19, 19, 2 students drop, right? Okay, everyone presents today. Good. So that's all for today class. Okay, thank you everyone for your participation today. Stay safe and stay healthy. Okay, goodbye.